Most training programs these days talk about development, but they do little to actually provide it. Instead, they effectively track compliance. This is awful, but it's understandable. Development by nature is difficult to measure, and when training programs are competing for resources in an organization, we need some way to justify their impact on the bottom line. The cost of the program is clear as day, however, the benefits can be murky. In an effort to combat this imbalance and justify the investment, we look at training metrics. Unfortunately, most measurable facets of training are the least effective. We measure attendance, assessments, or annual feedback forms. Most of these measurements focus on compliance, but not actual development. And that's a tragic mistake. Once we use compliance to justify training, we reduce the effectiveness of training to be little more than a legal defense strategy. Instead of trying to shortcut the process and use the easy measurements, you need to constantly refocus your decision-making processes and your training curriculum on training and developing your employees to be better at what they do. If you need to justify it, there are ways to do that, but more importantly, you need to build a culture where individual development is a given. Now, when you approach training culturally instead of financially, you actually position your training program to move you forward. And to this end, keep the following in mind when budgeting for your training activities. First, focus on engagement, not attendance. Great employees love to learn about things that make them better. When you focus your training on their development, you'll see your top performers engage more, produce more, and stay longer. Next, focus on the future, not the bottom line. Of course, you have to be reasonable here, but don't let dollars and cents dominate the conversation. Instead, open up the conversation to what the organization will need in years to come and build your training around that. And finally, focus on opportunity, not threats. Too many training programs are an overreaction to something gone wrong, like the threat of a lawsuit. So don't put attorneys in charge of your training. Dot your I's, cross your T's when you have to, but keep compliance on the fringes. Keep the core of your training focused on the development of future talent. Now, don't use training as a disciplinary tool. Instead, use it as a privilege and a benefit for those who truly seek to improve. With your focus on developing your employees to achieve higher performance, you open the door to one of my favorite aspects of an effective training program, and that is challenging the status quo.